Guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Amber, and on Mondays, I like to post creepy videos. Today, unfortunately, I have another missing persons case, and it is about Carla Vicentini. She went missing on February 9th, 2006 in Newark, New Jersey. This case, like I said, it happened in February of 2006, and then it kind of dwindled down as far as the coverage on it. In 2015, the FBI actually offered a reward of $20,000 for any information leading to Carla's whereabouts. So let me give you a little background about Carla. So this case strikes me as all of these cases are very tragic and odd, but this case is very, very sad. Carla is originally from Brazil. So she came to the United States on January 19th, 2006 as a foreign exchange student. So Carla was a very hardworking girl. As soon as she came to the United States, she got a job at a restaurant called White Castle in Ledgewood, New Jersey on Route 46. Unfortunately, her and her, I guess, foreign exchange student friend did not have a place to stay. So for some reason, the foreign exchange student program, I guess, is extremely legit, because at first people thought it was the exchange program that had something to do with her disappearance, but I guess it's super legit. The only thing is they did not cover room and board. They covered everything else as far as the exchange student program went, but room and board she had to figure out on her own. From January 19th, 2006 until February 5th, 2006, her and her friend were actually staying at a motel. So it is a little weird that about 2 weeks after her move, she disappears. So we'll get into the theories later, but until February 5th, 2006, she resided in the Roxbury Motel in Ledgewood, New Jersey. So on February 5th, 2006, until the time of her disappearance, she did live with a roommate at an apartment on Ferry Road. Carla was 22 years old at the time of her disappearance, and if she were, alive today, I believe she's 34. She was born on August 29th, 1983. She had blonde hair and brown eyes. She does have a lot of tattoos, so I will be putting those up on the screen as soon as we get to them, but I will leave all of her profiles. She has for someone who's actually not from the United States, she has a very extensive missing person profile as far as the way she looks and, identifying marks and whatnot. So that is good. It's always good to have as much information as possible when it comes to trying to locate missing persons. So it says that her height is 5'7" and her weight was anywhere from 130 to 140 pounds. She had multiple body piercings and also the following tattoos. So I don't want to get it wrong. She had a gray angel on her back, a red and yellow chameleon on her left hip, and a tribal tattoo on her lower back. So she does have a pierced tongue, a pierced navel, and multiple ear piercings, and she previously fractured the right side of her collarbone. So Carla does have a nickname, and her nickname, I guess, is Carolina. So her native language, she is from Brazil, so it was Brazilian Portuguese, and I guess she didn't speak English very well. I do want to tell you, at the time of her disappearance, she was wearing a white sleeveless shirt, a blue Hugo Boss jacket, and they don't know if she was wearing blue or white jeans, but it was one of the two, light brown high-heeled ankle boots, a silver ball in her navel, a silver ball in her tongue, a Moramai sports wristwatch on her left wrist, a large silver ring on her ring finger, and 2 silver rope necklaces, one with a pendant. She was only planning to stay for a couple of months, so this wasn't something she planned on, she did not plan on staying in the United States indefinitely. She did have plans to go back home to Brazil, so this makes the case so much more saddening, because it's like when she said goodbye to her family, it wasn't goodbye, I'm going to be in the United States for a long time. It was like, I'm going to be there for a couple months and then I'll be home. And like a month later, she goes missing. That's why I really want to bring her case back out. She was born and raised in a small agricultural town in Brazil, and she's very much a family person. She had a great relationship with her mother. In fact, her mother has spoken out on her behalf. There are interviews with her parents, with her mother from Brazil, that are in Brazilian Portuguese language. So there have been some, so I do want to apologize if the translations aren't 100% perfect. I try to do my best. So I really hope that it's translated as closely as possible. But again, there is this language barrier that I'm trying to overcome in this case. Like I said, she did live at that Roxbury motel, and I guess she did live there with a few other women, and she was working immediately at White Castle, but I guess Carla was not very happy with the situation. Like, I can only imagine going from living at your home to living with a bunch of women that you may or may not know 100%. And then White Castle, I do believe, is like a burger restaurant. So she did end up finding a new place to live and also a new job. She actually was a very, like I said, a very intelligent, very bright young woman, very driven. She was an engineering student at the time, which is absolutely amazing. I mean, that takes a lot of brains, in my opinion. So she did end up starting a new job at a place called Mediterranean Manor. In fact, at the day of her disappearance, I believe she had gotten off work and went to hang out with her roommate at her roommate's place of work. I'm going to get into the details of what happened the day she went missing. So there are some conflicting details as far as what happened the day that Carla actually went missing. The person recounting what happened to Carla the last day she went missing, or the day that she went missing, is actually her roommate. So the apartment that Carla and her friend Eduarda, I think her friend's name is Eduarda, moved into is actually a friend of Carla's family, and he was 75 years old. He was a client of Carla's father, who was an accountant. So I guess Carla's father was an accountant and Jose was a client of his. So essentially she moved in with someone who was deemed to be a safe person because he was a friend of the family's. What's interesting about Jose is that after her disappearance, he has not had any contact with the family, according to sources. We'll get back to that later though. So Eduarda and Carla were staying at his home. So literally she moved in on February 5th and she went missing on February 10th. You guys do the math, not long at all. So according to some sources, the day of her disappearance, some sources say that Carla got off work at the restaurant Mediterranean Manor, and then apparently she went to Eduarda's new job. Here's another thing that's strange about this. So then the day or night that Carla went missing, her friend Eduarda started a brand new job as a cocktail waitress at a restaurant or bar called Adega. And I guess this was actually located in a Brazilian part of Newark, New Jersey. So it's really interesting, and this may not have anything to do with each other. It's probably not related, but the restaurant or bar that she last was at was actually on a place called Ferry Street, and then the apartment she was living at was also on a street called Ferry Street. So I think that's a little interesting, but the Adega Bar and Grill on Ferry Street was in a Brazilian section of the iron-bound area of Newark. So it was Eduarda's first night as a cocktail waitress at the place called Adega. And some sources say that Carla actually got off work herself at her place of work, went to Adega to visit with her roommate because it was her first night there. And I guess she actually went home to change clothes because I guess she was in her work clothes. So originally Jose said that he was home alone, or he was asleep at home, so he didn't really know that she had came home to change. But I guess they did discover that she did change clothes because when they went looking for her, they saw that her clothes from previously that day had been changed and they were at her area where she was staying inside the house or apartment. But then Jose later changed his statement to the fact that he actually saw Carla show up, change her clothes, and then leave. So he said he didn't see her, he was asleep. Then he said he changed his story to he did see her come into the apartment, change clothes, and leave. So to me, that's a little weird, but again, no, obviously he's not a suspect because he's walking free. So then she changed her clothes and went back to the restaurant. So it does say, although Jose divided his time between Newark and Carla's hometown in Brazil and was a client of Carla's father, he has had nothing to do with the family since the time of her disappearance. So how do you go from being basically a family friend, living in the same town as the missing person, and then, she lived at your house, and then never speaking to the family again? To me, that's suspicious, but then again, it could also mean that he feels responsible and maybe had nothing to do with it. After she changed her clothes, she went back to the bar where her friend Eduarda was cocktail waitressing for the first night. Yeah, she spent the rest of her time there talking to this man. I guess he was a heavyset man in his 30s. Sources say, I guess her roommate said that he didn't speak any Brazilian Portuguese and he spoke English. So some people are wondering, well, how did they have a conversation? Because here it says that Carla was not fluent in English whatsoever, that it was very broken and she didn't know much. And this man did not know any of her native language. So I don't know what they could have possibly been talking about. And according to Eduarda, this patron did not look happy. I guess he looked pretty miserable, is what she said, compared to the other patrons, which again, I don't know. I mean, I know they say that Carla was a very friendly, very outspoken, very nice girl. Maybe she could just converse with anyone and she's just trying to make this guy feel better while she was waiting for her friend to get off work. I don't really know. It's at around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Carla told Eduarda that she would be right back, that she was going to go outside and look at a photograph in this man's car. Now, you know, she was working, so it's not like she could really follow her friend out to see what was really happening. But that, according to Eduarda, was the last thing her friend said to her and the last time that anyone has seen her. I guess Eduarda did say that Carla gave her manager the man's phone number, the heavyset man's phone number. According to some people in this sketch of the man that Carla left the bar with, he's described to be as in his 30s, heavyset with blue eyes and salt and pepper hair, and he's unshaven with a beard. He was wearing a black t-shirt and they believe his name might actually be Antonio. The only other time that people may have heard from Carla, which is really, really frightening, is that Newark police did receive an anonymous phone call saying that there was possibly a woman being held against her will in an apartment. I guess the number was 12H in Honesdale, Pennsylvania. I don't know exactly how close that is or why they would think that was Carla, but I guess Newark police thought maybe that was it. They don't know if it was a tip or a hoax though. So the strange thing is that I guess the night that Carla went missing, she was wearing her Hugo Boss jacket, but officials said that the Hugo Boss jacket and Carla's passport and wallet were found in her apartment, leading officials to believe that she did in fact return home after leaving Adega. There were no signs of struggle in the apartment, nor were there any signs that anyone had attempted to clean a crime scene. So nothing let officials believe that the guy that was actually letting them stay there had anything to do with it, because it didn't seem like, you know, there's no bleach. It didn't look like anyone was cleaning up blood or anything like that. The apartment didn't seem to be in disarray. And it is bizarre that her jacket was there. It is odd that they're including in her description of what she was wearing was a white sleeveless shirt, a blue Hugo Boss jacket, blue or white jeans, light brown and faded high-heeled ankle boots, but they found her jacket in the apartment. Okay, so I'm already having a really big problem with this case because there's a ton of inconsistent details online, and these are from sources that are pretty legitimate in my opinion. So just keep that in mind, you guys, when you're thinking of this. But look at her picture. Like, I mean, she's a very striking, beautiful young woman. I'm sure, I really pray that she's still alive today. I'm sure she probably looks very much the same. Didn't find any age progression photos. If I do, I will definitely include those in this video. I don't believe that I have seen any, but again, she was 22 years old at the time she went missing. That was 11 years ago. In fact, it will be 12 years this February. We really need to keep our eyes and ears open for Carla Vicentini. There's got to be someone that knows something. I honestly have a feeling that her roommate knows a little bit more than she's leading on, and possibly even Jose, because if in fact Carla did come home because her jacket apparently was there in her passport, then, and Jose said he did see her enter and leave, maybe if he did, maybe he saw her enter and leave the second time, because apparently she was there the one time when she changed, and then possibly a second time when she came back and dropped her belongings off. You guys, this case is very confusing. So there was also allegedly, but it does say that a call was made to Carla's boss several days after she went missing, and the caller was screaming for help. Again, that is an unidentified caller, and you never know if these are hoaxes or what. Especially because how many phone numbers do you guys know? I know my own phone number, and I know like 2 other people's phone numbers. I don't know that I don't know that she would know the phone number of her place of work. I mean, maybe she did, but Who knows? So like I said, the man was heavy set. He had blue eyes. He did appear to be Caucasian, but some people think that possibly he could have been Brazilian. I guess some Brazilian people can have a lot of different colored skin, so it's very difficult to judge what nationality he is. He could have been American, he could have been Brazilian, it's hard to say, but they did say he had salt and pepper hair. He was more heavy set. He had sort of an unshaven kind of beard. He had like a look about him that seemed to be very unhappy, maybe kind of angry, and he was heavy set. He was about 5'8", 200 pounds with a stocky kind of broad build, and he was described to be in his 30s. So if he was in his 30s then, he's probably in his 40s, mid 40s now, depending on if he actually was in his 30s then. So like I said, there hasn't been any real leads to this case, but in 2015 the FBI did post this on their site. They did step in. They are offering a $20,000 reward. As at last, on the 9th anniversary of her disappearance, the Newark division of the FBI announced it is offering a reward of up to $20,000 for information leading to the location of Carla Vicentini or information leading to the identity of the person or persons involved in her disappearance. In addition, I guess the agency also launched a multimedia campaign to publicize the new reward, as well as notifying the news media. I guess they placed digital billboards across the Newark area, and Vicentini's photo will be sent out to various FBI social media platforms, including Facebook and Twitter. So you guys, just so you know, it is so important for you guys to share these stories on any social media that you guys have, because right now, this day and age, it's all about social media. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. If you want to snap a photo, if you're in the Newark, New Jersey area, maybe you have a bigger following or any kind of following, you can snap her photo. You know what I mean? Because I'm not in that location, but if you're in that area and you watch my videos, even if you want to take your own photo of Carla, look online. I'll leave the links to her FBI profile, I guess, online, and then her NamUs profile. She has a ton of profiles online, which is amazing when it comes to missing person cases. But I will leave all of that down below, and if you guys just take a screenshot of what her like missing poster would look like, printed out, it would be amazing, because someone will recognize her. I guarantee you, someone will recognize her. She's a girl that you can't miss, a beautiful girl, you know, so let's just spread the word about her. The anniversary is coming up, the 12-year anniversary of her disappearance. I would really like to help give her family some closure or some answers, or to find her. As with most missing person cases, there are a ton of theories on the internet about what could have possibly happened to Carla. I do want to stress that these are just theories. There are a lot of people that have questioned whether Antonio was in fact a real person. The man that apparently her roommate last saw her with at the bar, Adega, was actually a person and not someone that was contrived. Now, I don't have any reason to believe that her roommate is making this up, but there are some theories that Carla was actually taken into sex trafficking, and that her roommate and the man that they both lived with, Jose, had something to do with it because of his weird behavior after her disappearance, because he has not spoken to the parents whatsoever. Like, he has no contact with him, even though they live in the same town in Brazil and their daughter lived with him. He does not communicate with them. And also Eduarda, how she is conveniently the last person to have seen Carla, and also the only person to really have seen this man that could be possibly named Antonio that Carla allegedly left with, and the fact that the number is missing. So that Eduarda possibly lost the man's phone number when she was counting money or something like that. So some people do find that a bit suspicious. Again, it's just a theory. I don't know that I agree with it. I do think that Jose may know more than he says, because he did change his story about not seeing Carla that night, but then he said that he did see her, and also his house is the last place she was living at, and she was only living there for like 5 days before she went missing. So it is very suspicious. I find it highly suspicious that his story is conflicting. I find it weird that her jacket may or may not have been there. Again, lots of conflicting information online. That's what's very frustrating about this case. And a lot of people do say, like, there are so many holes in the story. Let's start with the fact that it was February, which was winter in Newark, New Jersey. Why would she go back home to leave her jacket? So like, that doesn't make sense. And the thing that is really weird about Eduarda saying that Carla went with this guy, Antonio, to his car to look at a photograph. A lot of people find it, including myself, very bizarre that someone goes to someone's car to look at a photograph. I mean, nowadays we have our phones, and I think in 2006 there were camera phones, maybe not, but why would you have to leave the bar at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to go into some stranger's car to look at a photograph? Now, some people were saying possibly he was from Brazil and maybe he knew her family and maybe he had photographs and he wanted to show her that. But still, why the secrecy? Why would you have to go to his car to look at a photograph? That doesn't make sense to me. That seems like a weird, conjured up story, if you ask me. Maybe the roommate got it wrong. I don't know. Maybe it was loud and she didn't hear her very well. It just seems very suspicious. It just seems like a very unbelievable scenario. And there are some people that think, well, maybe Carla was trying to be intimate with this man for whatever reason. Some people think that she was doing sex work and she was in the car and she was going to do some sort of sexual act on him, but there is no information to support that theory. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all because she was a hard worker. She was working all the time, her regular jobs and going to school. So in my opinion, I don't feel that Carla was into the sex work industry. If she was, obviously there's no judgment here, but some people think that that's possibly what she was doing in the car with the supposed Antonio guy, but there is no evidence to really prove that that is anywhere near the truth. Again, these are theories. So there are some posters on Reddit that said they have actually visited the exact bar, the Adega in Ironwood, and that it is a huge population of Brazilian Portuguese residents, and that the bar is located on the main street in the iron-bound Ferry Street. Very popular with a ton of business and restaurants. Something were to happen to her even that late night, my instinct tells me it wasn't right away in the car but driven somewhere. So some people believe that nothing really happened to her in the car. Like maybe the guy really did gain her trust somehow as they were sitting there for hours drinking and conversing together. I mean, obviously she trusted him enough to go outside, leave the bar with him. I don't know if she actually believed they were just going in his car or if they thought they would go for a ride. Maybe he wanted, because she was new to that part of town and to America, maybe he convinced her that he was going to show her around the city. And maybe she did run by her apartment really quickly to leave her jacket. I don't know why. Again, it's the middle of winter, but these are just speculations. And then possibly after that, something happened to her. Or maybe they got into an argument and she got out of the car and then something happened to her while she was trying to walk back to her apartment or the bar. It's really difficult for me to think that there is no CCTV footage or anything like that. Get an actual identifying picture of this guy, if he in fact does exist. And then there are some people that really believe that possibly the Long Island killer had something to do with Carla's disappearance. But again, a lot of posters on Reddit are saying this probably isn't that great of a theory because I guess the Long Island killer went after a specific type, and also the area wasn't exactly near where a lot of the Long Island killer victims were found. And the MO was much different, and of course there has not been any body of Carla's found. I mean, thankfully, I do think that is a good thing because that means there's a chance that she's still alive. If you guys want me to look into the Long Island killer cases, let me know in the comments down below. Thumbs up this video because I've gotten a couple requests for that. I'm not sure if you guys are really into videos like that, but I can definitely look into that for you guys. Carla's mom, unfortunately, does believe that she is deceased or being held against her will. She does not believe that she left on her own accord because she said Carla is very family-oriented. She loves her family so much. She has never gone more than 2 days without contacting her family. So her mother believes that she has indeed been murdered. And it's just super tragic because what's sad about this case too is there is not that much coverage. I can't find hardly any YouTube videos about this case. I can't find any news reportings about this case. I'm going to try and look again as I'm editing the video. But typically, even on a case that has less information about it, you would find like a handful of news reportings some sort of coverage, but I can't find any. I do see one interview. I think that is her mom. I'm going to double check, but we really need to get this girl's image and information out in the media because it is truly lacking coverage. I am shocked by this. They've said that she's never really ventured far from her small agricultural town in Brazil. And when this opportunity arose for her, when she's 22 years old, she was very excited to take it and she jumped at the chance. It was only going to be a 4-month work visa in the United States. It says there is no smoking gun or relevant piece of information to break this thing open, Daniel Clegg, an American FBI agent stationed in Brazil, told the media. Vicenti's disappearance has not gotten much publicity in the US, but the case has captured the attention of the public in Brazil and has prominently featured in the Brazilian press. So that is good to know that it is featured in Brazil. But again, she didn't go missing in Brazil. She went missing in America, and that's where we need the coverage to be. And I guess the news of her disappearance absolutely devastated Vicentini's hometown of Goiás, a town of 28,000 in south of Brazil. Carla does have her mother, her father, 2 younger sisters, and a boyfriend who are all missing her, who are all grief-stricken, who have no idea what happened to their loved one. So her family did visit the Brazilian consulate in New York City, and Tanya Vicentini headed to the Newark police headquarters. Then she walked the streets of Ironbound. She retraced her daughter's steps from the night she disappeared. She talked to restaurant owners, and she looked for Carla's familiar face. Her mother doubts Eduarda's account. So she said other witnesses saw Carla walk home alone from the bar. So here's the conflicting stories. Carla's mom said she spoke to other witnesses about the night of Carla's disappearance, and they did not see her talking to a man, and they saw her walking home alone from the bar. And they're definitely suspicious of Jose Fernandez because, like I said, he lives in their small town, which is like 28,000 people. He was a client. He had a relationship with the whole family. And ever since then, there's been a strain and no communication from him with them. Like I said, America has hardly done any stories on Carla. The Star Ledger did one small article, and at least as far as anyone involved in the case knows, television news never mentioned her missing at all. No networks have mentioned Carla's disappearance at all. I really wish Crime Watch Daily or someone like that would hop onto the story, because this is one of those stories that has a ton of information, at least we think so, but there's no coverage of it. So I don't get that. So a lot of people think that this case probably wasn't discussed that much because of the language barrier. So like I said, guys, this case is crazy. It's tragic. It is absolutely ridiculous that there has been so little coverage of this case. I urge any other YouTuber that possibly has the time to make a video about Carla, because this is a case that unfortunately has such small coverage because of the language barrier, and possibly because she wasn't a resident of the United States. But I still feel like she went missing in our country. We owe her family that much. So at the very least, if you guys can please pass this information along on any of your social media accounts, I would really appreciate it, because this case has zero coverage that I can find, like nothing as far as media goes. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for giving Carla and her family time and for giving her case some time. And please, please look at her picture. Think about the tattoo she has, the piercings, sort of what she looked like. I'm sure she looks pretty similar today. Hopefully she's still alive. And if you guys know anything, please say something. You can submit a tip anonymously. You can call your local FBI office or your local consulate's office. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will be back with another video this week. I do have a video updating you guys on the paranormal activity that I've been experiencing a lot as of late. So if you guys like these kind of videos, please give me a thumbs up and let me know in the comments down below if there are any other cases you would like me to cover on my channel. I really want to cover as many cases far and wide as possible, because like I said, it's so important to spread awareness to these cases. All of the information will be linked down below. I love you guys so much. Please remember to always be kind to yourself and others, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be later this week. I love you guys. Bye.